Hello everyone, this is Tim from Arcana. Today's MEVO White Belt training video is on the API. This is going to be more of a lab video. I'm going to just show you the very basics of how you can start playing around with it. First thing we need to do is I have my lab server. Let me log into it. And I need to create an API account. So that's going to be under System Options, and then API. Now let me create a username. So add user, let's just call this Tim API. Let's give it a password. How about just Tim API, Tim API? Oh, looks like it won't let me because it matches my login name. Let's just do Morita. Okay, and then I'll set this to my email. I'm not sure if I have to select a time zone, but I do need to save this two-factor key. I'll just let this error out if it's required. So I'm going to copy this two-factor key somewhere else. You'll notice if you read this notification, this is the only time you can view this key. So if I don't copy this now, I won't be able to view this ever again. So let me copy that. Some additional things you can do is you can select which API calls you're allowed to make. You're allowed to restrict this user account from only making calls from a specified IP address. So some extra security things, but I don't really care too much about that for this video. So we'll do save. Okay, maybe I do have to set a time zone. There we go. Okay, so there we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our file share site and I'm going to download some of our samples. So I'm going to log in. And now that we're in, let's look for API. API sample. So I'll just grab the latest one. Looks like it's 8162. So I'll download these. And then to make this easier for me to find, I'm just going to extract these and put this into my desktop folder where I keep all my other. Perfect. Okay, so I've downloaded this, I've extracted it, I've moved it onto a folder on my desktop, the one that I typically use when testing my API scripts. So let's go ahead and open some of that up. So I'm going to use this and go to my desktop. And let's open the API samples. And I'm going to be using Python. So I'm just going to select this and click open. This is, if you're not familiar, this is Visual Studio Code. And now I can view all the different samples that came from the website. So the ones I want to show you are this MEVO API core. This one will be referenced in all of your other samples. So for example, if I select create user, you can see that I am importing the MEVO API core. It looks like I'm also importing this thing called server settings. So let's just run through a quick example. Let's do, how about router details? Because I already have a router provisioned in my MEVO server. If I can find it. Here we go. So I have my white belt training username that was provisioned probably in a previous video. So what we'll do, oops, that is not the right one. That is my WebEx. What we'll do is let's read through this script. So we're going to import things from MEVO API core. We're going to import things from server settings. And this is the operation that we're running. So it's called router details. And here's our payload data. So it looks like I need to provide the login name. So that is white belt training. And then here's where we're actually calling the function. So S response is equal to process, and I believe process is part of MEVO API core. Yep, here's that function. So we are passing, it looks like an S IP address, S username, S password, S passkey, S operation, and S payload data. So the payload data is already here. The operation is here. So we just need to fill in these variables. And I believe that was under server settings. Yep, okay, so the IP address of my server is 10.152. My username that we created was Tim API. That password was Morita. And then let me paste in that key that we copied earlier. Okay, so let me save this. Let me save my changes here. So what we'll do now is let's go ahead and run this and see if this works. And there we go. Here is our output. There is white belt training. I see my IP address, the device status, the iOS version, the serial number. So everything is good. So I can go through all these different API. We have an API document on our file share site that details what all of these different things do. But this is how you can get started and start playing around. If you have any questions, let us know.